Well, hello everybody. This is Susan from Cabtopia.com, and as with probably everybody out there, in the middle of the night last night, I kind of had an idea. And 2 o'clock in the morning, I had to get up and start making stuff. So this is the product of what I was making. Ignore my scribbles on the back. Whenever I make prototypes, I write my stuff on the back on how I made them. So I scribbled that out so you wouldn't be bothered by it. So what I came up with last night was kind of interesting to me. Hopefully it's interesting to you. I was thinking to myself, I make these dies for the press. This is a second. So I make these dies for the press. These dies make impressions. So they are jewelry press dies. This is just a really quick and dirty one I did. So how they work is you put your metal on the die, then you put your rubber, 50 Dura rubber here, on top of that, and then you put a piece of wood or metal or something on top of this, and you put that in your press. And so I don't have a really nice press. I have a 12-ton Harbor Freight janky thing that's kind of cockeyed, so when it goes in there it goes off kilter. I don't really like to use it because quite frankly it's dangerous and nothing comes out right. Everything comes out with a impression that's a little bit lopsided. So I started thinking to myself, what if I put these dies in the rolling mill? If they will go in the press, why couldn't they go in the rolling mill? So last night I got up in the middle of the night or in the early morning, and I tried to put this into my rolling mill, and no go, because it's too thick. Well, actually I was able to get this into the rolling mill, and I made this impression with it. This is a 24 gauge metal, so I thought, okay, well, let's try that with a piece of 20 gauge metal. And of course I couldn't get that in. And the reason why I couldn't get that in is because my economy rolling mill, I have two rolling mills. I have a nice one and I have an economy rolling mill. And unfortunately somebody broke into my car while it was in my driveway, almost 6 months ago, and broke my window out. Nothing happened. They didn't do anything. They just broke the window out. I think they might have been looking for something, and I don't leave stuff in my car. So I had to quickly, it was late in the afternoon, I had to quickly make space for it in my garage, and of course my garage is like a factory, so everything went from one side of the garage to the other side of the garage, and there was just a lot of stuff in there, so I wasn't paying attention to what I did, and I've piled everything up in my jewelry station. There's no way to get to anything there, and my good rolling mill, my nice one, is buried in there, and I would probably have to do a running dive and a tuck and roll to get to it, and I just don't have the stamina for that anymore. So I'm using my economy rolling mill, and I also thought this was a good test for me to find something that everybody can use. So having said that, I am using the 24 gauge metal. So I did try to use I tried to make a solution for up to 20 gauge metal. So what I came up with was these dies, or these texture plates, and these are, I did them in this color so that you can see the pattern. So everything that is clear would make an impression on your metal, and everything that is frosted, am I saying that right? And everything that is frosted would be pushed into the metal. Okay, that's right. The frosted is an impression. The clear is an impression. The frosted is raised up. Is that right? I think that's what I'm saying. Anyway, all right, you get the message. You understand. So taking this and using a piece of craft foam. This is not the best craft foam. It's from the 99-cent store. But taking a piece of craft foam like this and putting it together on the thing here, on the die, or the texture plate and putting this in the rolling mill this way, I was able to get a pretty good impression. And this is what it looks like on the 24 gauge. Hopefully you can see that really well. Makes a quite crisp, nice impression. And then on the 20 gauge, it's not quite as crisp because it's crisp, but it's not quite as into the metal. I don't know how close I can get this for you to see it. But, and the reason why that is because my economy rolling mill, the gears do not touch anymore once you get to a certain height. So to put this together on the plate, and I couldn't add the foam, so I would have to do the metal just on the texture plate itself. So if I could get to my rolling mill in the garage, I probably would have much better result with the foam on here, because it clearly can make an impression, and it doesn't have any problems. It doesn't crack or anything. It did a really good job. And then I decided, okay, I need to test this as well in the press, my also crappy Harbor Freight press. So I don't know if you've seen the 12-ton Harbor Freight press, but it has a thing that comes down like this, and then there is a post that comes down in the center, and I have to stack metal things together, and then where the post comes down, I put something under that and try to balance it. Well, the post comes down at an angle, so anything that I put in there kind of gets pressed at an angle. It's annoying. So I put in the let's see, where is it? I put in this this is just embarrassing. First I put in this pattern with the rubber and put it in like this. This is how I sandwiched it all together. And then I put a piece of metal on top of this, a metal plate, and pressed it in. Now, this is the first time I've ever done it. I don't know how much pressure it can take before it breaks. I cranked that sucker down until I was thinking that it was probably very tight. I don't know. Haven't done it in years. I haven't used that thing in years. It's pretty oily over there. It sort of acted like it was trying to bust. But you can see here that it was at this angle. So I got a nice impression here on this side and nothing on the right. So it clearly can make an impression. I didn't hear any cracking noises. I didn't hear any issues like this. This is only 1/8 inch acrylic. I think I'll probably make them in a thicker acrylic if somebody wants to have them for the press, because I think it's probably necessary. But it does make an impression. Just, you might want to have an actual jewelry press if you're going to make these on the press. The good thing about using them on a press is that you put it on your texture plate, you put it in the press, and it comes out nice and flat, as opposed to, you know, getting a curl. They're not that hard to flatten out. I put this between a couple of pieces of paper and put it back in the rolling mill, and I didn't get it super flat. I didn't want to take the impression out, but that's easy enough to get the curve out. I also put this one in with 20 gauge metal, and what I noticed when I put it in with 20 gauge metal is that it still made a nice impression. Same issue. I put it in and I put it only where that post came down did it really make a good impression. So seriously, get a jewelry press, because I don't know if you can see that. It did make an impression in that one spot where the post comes down. So anyway, so that worked out, but that's, you know, you get a jewelry press. So I was looking at one of the options. All of a sudden my mind started I started getting creative, and my voice is going because I stayed up all night working on this stuff. I was super excited. So that's how I get when I get excited about a new toy. So, oh, I should probably show you some of the impressions made. This is one of the first impressions I made. I started out trying to figure out what depth I wanted things to be, as far these dies, what depth I wanted them to be. So I used my caliper to figure out, you know, what depth they were, and they are between 0.7 and 1 millimeter depth in this one, and 0.7 depth in this one. So I believe that the reason for that is because the little details in this die are so thin that it doesn't leave room for them to be deep, very deep. So anyway, this one, they're very wide. I've noticed in the widest spaces they're deeper, and in the narrower spaces they're less deep. But it's pretty good depth. I mean, none of these pieces are that deep. You know, when you look at the depth of where they went to in the impression, none of them went that deep. Yet they're still very impressive as far as how deep they went. I mean, what kind of an impression they made. So here's a 24 gauge, nice impression, and here's another one. So I started thinking to myself, what would I do with these? And I came up with an idea, just one of the ideas, there's just so many. I thought, okay, so now that I have this made with the silhouette, with my Cabtopia silhouette die, I would probably texture this first. So I'd get myself a texture, something like this, and I would texture it first and put it through, you know, the rolling mill or the press, and come up with this image. And I thought, okay, well then I could make 2 of these and put them back to back, and make a bead out of it, or a pendant, earrings, whatever. I could set a stone in it, so I could put like a faceted stone, or if I did want to do that, or if I wanted another option, I could put a cabochon in. I could make this into a bezel. So there used to be a guy at one of the lapidary studios that made these things that he called shadow boxes. So he actually made a shape like this, and his stone was the same shape, and he would mount it from the inside, which was, I don't know, bizarre to me. You know, I couldn't figure out how he did it, but here's a different way to do it. So let's say you have this shape, and you grab your Cabtopia template, and you've already made this, so you turn it over and you find a smaller shape of that. Let's go with this little one. I always first get the point at the top and the point at the bottom and draw a straight line. Let's do that with this. So I'm going to draw this straight line from the top to the bottom. So there it is. There's my bottom point. There's my top point. So now I have equal sides. So it's not quite equal because I'm doing this fast. And sloppy. So then I line up my top and bottom points. And then I'm going to use my stylus to draw or scratch my shape in here. Now I'll drill a hole, and then I'll saw this little spot out. Then I will use a mandrel to first it's got to be annealed, of course. Then I'll use a mandrel to bend this. This will have to be cut just a tiny bit so that it will be able to fold out. But I'll use a mandrel to push these edges outward. And so that what you'll have is a bezel that is in the shape, this shape right here. I should do it this way, this shape right here. So then I'll make a stone this shape, and then I will make sure that it matches by setting it in from the back, make sure that it matches. Then I will mount my back plate, solder this to the back plate, and cut out all around. I'll use my template again find the shape that I want. I like the big one. So there's going to be a pattern on my metal. So if there's a pattern on my metal, I can find any shape. I don't even have to use this shape. I could use an entirely different shape if I wanted to, you know. I don't have another template here with me, so I could use that shape. Meh. I think I'll just go with this shape. So find the shape that I want, like this. Again, find my bottom. I can't see what I'm doing here. Find my bottom and find my top. And then line them up. And draw it out. So I'll use a pin this time so it'll be easier to see. Line them up. Line them up. And there, that's what I'll cut out. So they're soldered together. I cut that out, and my bezel's already here. Everything's all textured and ready to go. My bezel's sitting here straight up and ready to receive the stone. And then I can just, and then I will take my diamond file, and everywhere where my bezel is sitting up, I will give it an angle so that when I go to fold my bezel over, a 24 gauge is a nice bezel too. It's a nice, beautiful bezel as it folds over. It looks clean, it looks straight, it's awesome. And if you have a little pattern on it, that's cool. So I can take this bezel after I've made like an angle on it, and then I'll fold that over and it will lay really nice and clean to the stone. I see a lot of people online all the time asking, how do I get my bezel to lay flat against my stone? Well, that's a good way right here. You can file the edge at an angle this way, or you can make teeth in it, and you'd need to file the edge to begin with and make teeth in it and then fold it over. But anyways, that's another project I was thinking about, and all these tools work together for it. The template with the different sizes, that's why I have sizes on the template so you can make sweets. The dies, silhouette dies for making the impression, and texture plates. All can be found at Cabtopia soon. Those are coming soon. And of course I have the 50 Dura rubber. If you need that, it comes 2 in a package. And thanks for joining me.